Oh, hey, I hear you guys now. How are you?
Good.
Good. Let me turn you up a little bit.
Okay, we're gonna have to do our official introduction. So sit back while we shower you with love.
Your official what?
Our official introduction of you.
Oh, okay.
You may know him as your favorite anchor on KDKA, but did you know that Ken Rice
is from Chicago and that he got his journalism training at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Did you know his reporting assignments have been remarkably eclectic, from Super Bowls to the Q Creek Mine Rescue
to the G20 protests, to the Stanley Cups, to the tragedy of Tree of Life.
He has won many awards. One of them is a first place Associated Press Award, as well as the Golden Quill Award.
And he's in demand as a speaker in our community. Also, he served on the board of the MS Society of Pennsylvania, which is something that's really close to my heart.
And he has a recurring role, which is near and dear to my heart, in the fundraiser for the food bank in Pittsburgh, Off the Record. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our amazing guest, Ken Rice.
You know what? That's so nice, but I think I missed a little bit of that. If you could start over. Is that a problem?
Ken Rice, ladies and gentlemen.
That's better.
It's
how fun to be.
We are so grateful to do this because we think you're amazing. We think you are so amazing, and we're going to share this video with our students as well as anybody in the community that wants to know a little bit more about you. But I'm going to start with how I know you so the viewers kind of get an understanding. So I haven't done it as much as you. You've done every single year of Off the Record?
No, I missed only since 2000, so only 20 years.
Oh, okay.
I missed the first. No, wait, is that right? No, the show started in 2000. I've been doing it since 2003.
Okay, I think that's when I started, or 2000.
It could be.
I missed the first or second one.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, Off the Record is this amazing one-night event where the SAG-AFTRA union and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette combine with actors and writers and sometimes just volunteers from the community to put together a spoof of Pittsburgh politics for the year. And it's a musical, and it has raised over the past 20 years over $700,000 for the Pittsburgh Food Bank. And last year alone, it raised $32,333. All these numbers come from our producer, Sharon Everson. Thank you. Tip your hat. And it's raised thousands of dollars in journalism scholarships, too, which is amazing. So why you keep coming back?
Mostly just to see your performance. So it's very nice of you to rain praise down upon me, but I am a huge fan of yours every year. You are such an integral part of Off the Record. I can't imagine it without you, from Sophie Masloff to other notables. One that comes to mind, but
Pittsburgh accent. That's what I do.
Oh, it's impeccable. It's so good. You'll have to do it before we finish here. I've told so many people, it probably is my favorite night of the year, or at least my top three. It's just there's just a great feeling. Everybody in the audience is there to have a good time. Yes, we gently poke fun at Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh newsmakers, and those of us who report the news, we poke fun at each other. It's just, there's nothing else like it, where we come together as a community, people from all different walks of life gather in that theater and we laugh and we have fun. And at the end of the night, we kind of always end on a note of, hey, we may have our differences. A lot of us may be idiots, but you know what? We're all people. We all love Pittsburgh, and together we can come together and do something great, which, as you mentioned, is raise all of this money for the food bank. And just think how crucial that's been over the last year and a couple of months.
When you talk about the fun, it is a blast putting it together. You come in at sort of the ninth hour, which is like you come in after we've put the show together and you kind of put the giant bow on the package. But I have to say, every year I keep saying, why is Ken not in the show? why can't we get him like doing a cameo actually in the show? And that's something I'm going to work on with you, because I
Yeah.
think the audience wants more Ken Rice.
Mm, mm.
There's a high demand for that, so I think that's something that you should consider.
I never want to leave people wanting less. So I think that what I do is just right. I love getting to open up that show and tell some jokes and make relentless fun of my arch enemy, David Johnson. But then you guys, you guys are the pros, along with some rank hams, as Gary Rothstein likes to say. You're John Delano's
Oh,
various political figures over the years, right? You guys do such a great job with the show. I would never want to tamper with the
I,
integrity of that.
I think some of my greatest memories as an actor. So I assisted, direct, and choreograph, but this year I'm directing and choreographing the show. Some of my best memories are actually teaching John Delano to dance.
John he is a jack of all trades. He's like a five-tool baseball player. He'll dance, he'll sing, he'll tell jokes, he'll bring you to tears, he'll move you to elation. He's just such a good sport. I've never seen him do anything on that stage without me sitting there with a huge grin. He's a great part of that show every year.
Yes, he's such a blast. Okay, so this leads into your.
Well, anybody who's ever seen you do it, especially us as artists, you're so funny. Your monologue is so well put together. You're so witty. You had to have had some kind of theater experience, or maybe even done stand-up, because it's so enjoyable.
That's very nice of you. No, I've never done stand-up other than at Off the Record. I did dabble in a little bit of theater, but not till like my senior year in high school. It wasn't something that was the part of my own real experience as a kid. Although it's kind of in my genes, in that my mother was a tremendous actress and singer. She was always, when I was growing up, she was always in some kind of community theater production, always musicals like your classic South Pacific in Oklahoma and Fiddler on the Roof and all that. So she always had the cast albums playing, and sort of like the theater was always just part of our household. And I think the genes went right through me to my daughter, who went to college and minored in theater, but even though it was her minor, it was her passion. And it's just a part of who we are. And I do have just enough of a ham in me to once a year get up there and tell jokes.
Well, there's such an interesting correlation between what you do on a daily basis and what actors do, because you really do have to have an improv sort of background. I mean, there is an element in television and in theater where if something goes wrong, you're improvising. Has that happened to you on air? I'm sure it has. Do you have any on air improv stories?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, too many to even catalog. But I think the difference is that when people are improving, at least at the improv shows I've been to, the other person or the rest of the people on stage, they always can make it work. Whereas I feel like on the news, I just sit there like an idiot, and you kind of just freeze up and wait till there's some new words for me to say in the teleprompter. I don't claim any particular talent at being able to improv. No.
Well, I would disagree, because I think you're one of the you are very quick-witted. You're very funny, and I feel like if I was the producer of the news, I would feel so relaxed knowing that you were there because of that. Because if something went wrong, I feel like you have the gene to keep going. And that's something we talk to our students about all the time as performers, is you have to always keep going.
Yeah, I think, well, I will cop to this. I know better than to do what I was just joking about. You can't just freeze. So you have to move along. And people understand it's a live newscast. I don't think anybody expects perfection all the time. We're human. So when things do go wrong, if a tape isn't there, if I mispronounce something and catch myself, I tend to want to make light of it. And I think people can relate to it and say, yeah, okay, my day hasn't been perfect either. This isn't the worst thing in the world that a guy on the news made a stupid mistake.
What your day-to-day like? I mean, what is it like for you when you get to work? What are your job duties? What are you responsible for? I see a lot of correlation between performing as an actor or directing and what you do in my mind, but I'd love to know, like, factually, what actually happens for you during the day.
So I come in the middle of the afternoon. My first newscast is on the air at 5 o'clock. So the newscast is well in progress by the time I get there. And our producers will have created a rundown where, this story's first. We're going to go to Andy Sheehan and then to, Bryant Reed and on down the list. What I do is I'll get in there and I really enjoy the writing process. So I'll copy edit and I'll try to put the words into my own voice. And something I'm always discussing with other people in television is that I never want to sound like I'm reading the news. I want to sound conversational. So I'll write out words that you would never want to see in print. I'll write out gonna, Gonna, or wanna, because that's how people talk. And if we toss to John Shumway out in the field, he's a really effective live communicator because he's so good and fluent at speaking and just treating the viewer as if they're standing across the fence post, right? I think we get into trouble when we try to be too newsy. So I'm always trying to make it less newsy, more conversational. Forgive me for preaching, but this is something I talk about a lot.
I think it goes along with having your own voice, finding your voice. I mean, I know for a fact that's something you can relate to. You've been given music, right? And every musician's been given the same music. You want to find
what makes you special. Yeah, your connection, your voice.
So, yeah. I mean, not everybody receives the same copy, but most anchors, most people, I'm sure the copy is pretty similar. The news is what it is, and it's finding your take on it, your voice, which is something that I think, again, it's very personal. It helps you connect with the audience, which is really great.
Yeah, I never want to feel like I'm sitting there reading. I always want to be telling a story. I always want to grab you and say, listen to this. So this happened, and then this person said this, and wait a minute, then this happened. I always want to have that type of dialogue. I feel like it's a dialogue, even though it's one way. So I focus on that and I prepare for the 5 o'clock news. And then as soon as the 5 o'clock hour is over, I'm right back in front of my computer preparing for the 10 o'clock news and the 11 o'clock news. So, I'm not lifting heavy things. I'm not digging ditches. I'm eternally grateful to have this job. But the deadlines are the most unforgiving thing. There is every day at a certain time, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I have to have this done by this time. I have to be in place, got to get my makeup on, all these things. You live by the clock in television news.
It's as if you were reading our mind, because deadlines are something we talk about to young artists all the time. It's something it's something as artists, we know the importance of deadlines, right? You either make the deadline or you don't get the gig, but that's another thing that I think for young artists and people even that want to go into journalism, not just musicians and actors and writers, but deadlines seem to be a very challenging thing for kids lately.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the whole world has become less structured during the pandemic, right? We're doing things from our homes. We're dressed informally. We're meeting informally. I think for this generation, the effects of the pandemic, far greater than what we're talking about, are profound. And I think we won't even realize it until years later when we think back on it. But no, the deadlines, they're just such a fact of life. I had a co-anchor years ago. We used to joke that if it sensed like things weren't going to be ready in time, if we had a breaking story and the video wasn't in yet, we used to joke and say, well, tonight it's just going to be KDKA TV news around 5, not necessarily at 5. We'll be on the air at 5, but the news may arrive at 5:07. Right? We used to joke about that. Of course, we always had something to go, but yeah, it's I don't really think of, oh, who's just joined us? This just in.
Jumped up on my lap. We had a feeling he was going to be bad today because it's the morning. This is
Oh,
Charlie. He's 2
hey,
years
bud.
old, and he is a squirrel tail, and he's a monster.
It's pretty crazy.
I can tell.
Yeah.
I can tell.
Well, I think that's important, and I do think we have to be forgiving in the sense of during the pandemic about deadlines, but I do think it's important for kids to hear and young artists to hear that they do kind of make or break a person's success. Being able to meet deadlines in a, wouldn't you say?
Oh, totally. Well, we've been together 20 years. We're celebrating our 20th year as a couple this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And
How's it going so far?
It's going okay.
It's
We
going okay.
haven't.
All right.
But there's something she's always said in 20 years. Early is on time is late. Late is unacceptable. In our business, curtains, downbeats, as we say in jazz, downbeat is at 9 o'clock.
So what time do you show up for a gig if the downbeat's at 9?
8:30 for sure. No later than 8:30. But it's funny because in the arts, it's about timing. Whether it's a technical term, using timing, but also about being where you have to be, when you have to be there. It's critical.
Yeah.
Do you sense that there's a generational difference in adhering to deadlines? I'm sensing that you do.
We do. I think we experience so much. Not only, I mean, also with people that we work with too. You know, for me as an actor, I'm kind of working with kids I taught professionally now, you know, like kids I've seen through education. And so I feel like a lot of the younger generation, there isn't this urgency to be prepared early, you know, to meet deadlines. It's something I notice.
How did you develop an understanding of the sanctity of the deadline? Why do you know it? Why do I know it? How does it not?
I can answer this. We grew up during an age where you had to be home at 8 o'clock on Tuesday nights to watch Family Ties.
Right.
Your favorite TV shows, All in the Family, you know, Jeffersons. You had to be at the TV.
He nailed it.
At a certain time on a certain day. Deadlines were very, very
well,
important.
We talked about this before. I didn't have a VCR growing up.
Right.
For my 16th birthday, I asked my mom, could we rent a VCR for my party? You know what I mean? So like people at VCRs, they could tape their favorite shows if they could figure out how to make a VCR work back then.
Yeah.
But he's right. Our life was about like, if you wanted something, you had to be there.
That's right. That's right. That's an excellent point. I had not thought of that. But yeah, we didn't have the ability to change time. You know, now we can. You can watch your favorite show whenever you want, and you can watch 100 episodes in a row if you want. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Can you imagine? We used to have to wait a week between, you know, like episodes of Dallas, you know, procedural dramas where you're hanging on every plot twist. How did we do that? Did we just park these facts in our brain for a week? Because now when I'm binging a show, when I go from one episode to one episode, without getting up from my chair, I'm forgetting what happened in the last episode. How did we do it?
Well, it made us concentrate more. It made us think more. And it made us keep it in our brain longer, which is why, you know, I don't know if you know this, but Paul and I, it's almost like our relationship is based heavily on television. Like when we met, that's what we talked. That was like one of our main connections. But I wrote a show called TV Tunes, and it's all about how growing up, my world was shaped through TV theme songs. So we have been doing this show for now, how many years?
Gosh, probably 18 years.
18 years, and it's all TV theme songs, but it's about how we were so much time of our childhood was looking forward to something or, you know, planning around that moment. So kids today, they don't look forward to anything. Everything is right there in the second that they need it.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
So
go ahead. Sorry.
just a thought about TV theme songs before we continue with your very salient point. When we had children, my daughter is 23. So I was 23 years younger, and the theme to the Brady Bunch and Beverly Hillbillies and Gilligan's Island, these were fresher in my brain 23 years ago. But when we had a child, all of a sudden we're singing to our baby, trying to get her to go to sleep. And my wife, somehow she just had this reservoir of songs that her mother sang to her. I had no such reservoir because my mom was too busy singing professionally. So what am I singing? It doesn't matter what the song is. It's just the melody and holding and rocking the baby. So I ended up singing the Brady Bunch and these old sitcom themes to my daughter. And one of her first words was, I was singing the Brady Bunch song to her, and I said, I'll never forget this. They were three men living all together, but they were all, and I stopped, and her tiny little voice said, "Lone."
I have goosebumps.
Right? Magic.
I have goosebumps. Well, this is something we talk about in the show, which is I give everybody sing-along sheets, and I say, you're not even going to use them. You're going to think you need them, but they are burned in the back, deep in the recess of your brain. They're so powerful. So catchy, they tell a story. That is adorable.
So what happened to the great TV theme songs? Because, Welcome Back, Kotter and Mary Tyler Moore and Friends, these were great theme songs that told a story, sometimes very literally. But now they've kind of done away with it. They sort of get right to there's a little stinger, and then they get right into the plot.
Yeah, part of it is, with the exception of a few really good sitcoms, most sitcoms are gone.
Yeah.
The format of a sitcom is not really very prevalent in today's television viewing. Modern Family is probably one of the few, it's over now, but it was one of the few family drama comedies, right?
Yeah.
But there's not a lot. And I think that art of writing a theme song, there were just a couple people that wrote a lot of them.
Yeah. There were a group of people that. Yeah. Yeah.
I think people thought it was cheesy, and I think people didn't think it was flashy enough.
Yeah.
But we are a nation of nostalgia. There's no doubt that when people come to our show and they, they'll come up to me afterwards and they'll be like, I was like right there with you.
I also think that during the course of television, they thought that they would get more time if they made the theme song shorter and kind of let's get to the point. And if you've ever watched a TV show on Netflix or HBO Max, you see that skip intro button.
Yes.
Which is, I don't even want to hear this.
You're
I want
so
to get
right
to the, let's skip the intro. Let's not even deal with it.
And I used to sit in front of the TV with a tape recorder waiting for the theme song to come on to tape it. Because this was before you could buy a CD of them. And I would say to my family, my brothers and sisters, my mom and dad, I'd be like, please don't come in the room. The theme song is on. And then sure enough, one of my siblings would be like, I waited the week to record it.
So if I challenged you guys right now to sing not only the opening of Gilligan's Island, but also the close, because there was a separate closing song. Is that something you could do?
That's like the easiest thing in the world.
Seriously? Even the close?
Yeah.
Now, this is the tale of our castaways. They're here for a long, long time. They'll have to make the best of things. It's an uphill climb. The first mate and his skipper too will do their very best to make the others comfortable in a tropic island nest.
No phones,
no lights,
no motor cars,
not a single luxury like Robinson Crusoe. No, it's primitive as can be. So join us here each week, my friends. You're sure to get a smile with 7 stranded castaways here on Gilligan's Isle.
Well, Well, you barely were able to accomplish that. I feel like I really put you to the test, but no, that worked out just like we rehearsed it. So good job, you guys. That obviously that's in your show. That's got to be part of your show.
Bring people up on stage and we reenact the opening. I give everybody little costumes.
She casts everything.
Oh,
Gilligan and a skipper.
And then we act. And then the funny thing is, you're gonna love this. I give everybody a prop or a costume, and I say, so when we call out your character's name, you're gonna step forward and you're gonna become the character. That's all I tell people. Seriously. So I say, like when I say with Gilligan, you step forward. That's your moment. So every single time.
Oh, for sure.
The guy who playing Skipper starts
takes his hat off and starts whacking Gilligan.
The girl playing Marianne is like, Ginger is like,
and you never know. You see these kind of shy, sheepish people come on stage, and as soon as their moment happens,
it's hysterical.
they're the characters.
And then I give them a boat. A boat wheel.
Yeah, boat wheel.
And so then they're all like on the boat together.
They're doing
it's
this.
And you're not even coaching them.
Right. Yeah. It's already been pre-programmed.
Yes.
They can't help it. It's in there.
Yeah.
I have to come see that show. You guys are hilarious.
It's kind of our favorite thing to do.
I can see why.
Yeah. And it makes it like you said, it makes people, the fact that you sang it to your daughter, it is sweet. It is just wholesome, and hopefully it's like those shows will last forever on the internet, and they're like a little time capsule of how different our world was.
Yeah. So we are just three huge TV nerds, aren't we? We're in deep.
We are.
You don't even know the half of it.
Yeah, when the pandemic happened, we lost all our work, but we were able to watch a lot more TV. So there was that.
There was one big family gathering. It might have been a Thanksgiving where we're sitting around the table, and I had a TV theme song album on my phone, and I was playing little snippets. I play like 3 seconds of Room 222, and people know it. And sometimes they know it and they can't identify the show, but that is a really fun group activity if anybody's bored.
Yeah.
Before they can get vaccinated and back to normal.
Yeah. Have you gotten yours? Have you gotten your vaccination?
No, working on it.
Good.
Working on it. You guys?
Yes.
We're both teachers.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. Right?
We're very happy about that.
Totally.
Good for you.
That's
okay, so as artists, as a musician, as an actor, what we do can be incredibly competitive. We have to, work in a market where there's a lot of other artists trying to do what we're doing. What is it like with what you do, and how do you keep your head above water in such a high profile and such a competitive industry that you're in?
Is David Johnson waiting in the wings?
David Johnson, I really don't choose to talk about David. Maybe funny to you guys, but he's not a good person.
I know.
And
we taught the children, so we know all about it.
Okay. Well, see, here's the reason I love having fun with this idea that David Johnson and I are enemies, because, people perceive their local news teams to be, arch enemies, like, rumbling like they did in Anchorman. We've had, I could count the number of rumbles we've had on two hands, but no, we don't. Like, people would be surprised to learn that, if all three stations are out covering a story, and one station's cameraman starts to lose his battery power, yes, the other guy from the other station will loan him a battery. We get along. We're all sort of in it together. Yes, we want to win. Yes, we want to have the highest ratings. But on a person-to-person level, many of us are friends. And, that's why I like to have fun with this idea that David and I hate each other. Actually, he's a delightful person. He's a good friend of mine, has been for years. Same with Mike Clark. But that's just a fun way of toying with this idea that we're these fierce competitors. Not that our bosses aren't. our bosses are fierce competitors at the management level, but those of us in the trenches, we tend to get along.
Is it something that, you know, is it something that when you get that job as an anchor, I don't know, do you feel like you have to like hold on to it? In the sense when he was talking about competition, it feels like, I mean, for actors, you might get a job, but you're always looking for the next job. Is there like a level of you've proved yourself and you have a level of like, I got this job now. I've proved myself and I got it. Or is there a looking over your shoulder moment ever for?
Yeah, I think that's just human nature. I think you're even the most Johnny Carson, probably looked over shoulder a little bit even when he was at the top of the mountain. I think that's just human nature. I think that there's I guess there's a feeling that you pay your dues, and then if you are an effective communicator and viewers respond, that that's a good thing, and your station will want to continue that good thing. That's not to say that I couldn't be gone tomorrow, or David Johnson couldn't be gone tomorrow. You never know what is going on that you don't know about, all sorts of pressures and various other things that are taken into consideration that are above my knowledge. I can't worry about that. I just go in there every day thinking, how can I make this newscast as watchable and as compelling as it can be, get to the most important stories with clarity, and then also, find those moments where you can have a little fun, make it palatable and hopefully a pleasant experience for people, even when you're dealing with unpleasant stories, as we have been very much lately. So that's really, if you're thinking about other stuff, then you're not going to be good at what I just talked about, right? You have to be in the moment, making the most of that moment right there, not the next story that you're reading, the story that you're reading right now.
I love it. It's like I set it up and you knocked it out of the park, because a lot of kids today, they're always, there is this, we interviewed a local, well, he went to CAP, and his name is Carter Redwood, and he's done a lot of theater in Pittsburgh and a lot of TV, and he said for the longest time he had his blinders on and he didn't worry about anybody else. And I say to the kids, I said, it's this moment now that matters. It's being in this moment and playing with passion and investing in the people that you're working in now that banks it for later on. But for a lot of these kids, they're unable to just let themselves be in the moment. Just enjoy this moment and know that the work that they're doing is enough. It's a very cutthroat. Theater and music, it's cutthroat, but it's building those relationships and enjoying the moment and the hard work that you do. And I love that you said that, because I think that's important for kids to hear, that it's sometimes just about doing the good work and investing in the now.
And I love that he used the phrase "pay your dues." Yeah. That's a big thing that I find young people have a hard time with nowadays. It seems the high school kids and some of the college kids I work with, they want success immediately, and that's a product of the sort of society now, the American Idol kind of ideology, that you can wake up the next day and now you have 1 million followers.
Yeah.
And there's that, you got to pay your dues, you got to learn, you got to make your way, and people see you. I appreciate that phrase that you use, because that's something I'm working on to this day, that we're both continually working on the craft, the moment, putting
Yeah.
thing.
What's the hardest part of your job? What's one of the things that is the most challenging?
Well, having to report horrible news it's horrible. I've had some really dark days where, I've come off the set and walked into the newsroom and lost my composure. We've had some really challenging things to report on. That's just, we're not robots, right? We're human beings. You're not turning on your TV to read your Twitter feed. You're turning on your TV to see another human being communicate the news to you. You have to be clear. You have to be calm when you're on the air, but that's not to say it doesn't affect you for long after you are off the air. It does. So those are things I'll never forget. I will say though, that and this is probably the same for you guys, when we are working at our maximum capability, if we're covering a hectic breaking story and there's new information constantly coming in and we're filtering it and we're verifying and we're sort of sifting and winnowing different streams of information, and it's almost like time becomes irrelevant. I could be on a set, sitting on the news set, covering a breaking story for 3 hours, and when I'm done, it feels like no time has passed because you're so immersed in it. And that's when I feel like I'm flexing my muscles to the maximum, right? Same with you guys. I know it.
100%.
Totally.
Yeah. You wrote something down.
Oh, okay. Well, as a musician, growing up and learning how to play, especially jazz, you listen to a lot of other musicians, you copy, you have heroes. I always loved Miles Davis. I always loved John Coltrane. Were there any news anchors or people on TV that you modeled yourself after who were your kind of heroes?
Well, I grew up watching David Johnson, so much older than I am. And I thought, whatever he's doing, I'm going to do the opposite. I can't let that go. It's just such a rich vein of humor for me. Even if we're the only 3 people enjoying this right now, I can't let it go. No, that's a great question. I think we all kind of start out copying the style and the affectations, because sitting at a desk and reading to a camera as if you're speaking to somebody one-on-one, it's a very unnatural thing to do. So there are people bring different tools to it, and sometimes I can see people's moves because I recognize them in myself. And I know this resonates with you guys too, because there is a performance part of it. Yeah. But the best people are the ones you can't see, like they're not reciting the steps in their mind. You just see them just oozing professionalism. So Peter Jennings was just this incredibly smooth, such a good communicator, never flustered, never out of control. I never saw anything that made me think this guy isn't in total command. So I was always in awe of him. Ted Koppel from the old Nightline. I thought, wow, such a good interview. There's no question he doesn't have the courage to ask. He will go and probe. Tim Russert was the same way. Great interviewers I have tremendous respect for. And then there was a guy on CBS who was a great crafter of news stories, Charles Kuralt, right? He had that great voice and that folksy, inviting style. He was like your favorite uncle, but he told such well-written, well-crafted stories that I always held him up as somebody to emulate.
I think it's a good thing, though. It's a good thing to have. I mean, obviously, you go through your time where you're sort of copying them or taking little nuggets from them, but to have a hero or to have somebody, I think it's great, because you see their quality of work and what they're able to deliver. I love Harry Smith.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm obsessed with him.
Yeah.
He has this, like you said, this warmth, this,
yeah,
earth person. And I think that's why you're so likable, Ken, is because you're very real. You're very real. But you mentioned there's a performance aspect.
Sure.
And so what is that? What is that? I mean,
I think the less you focus on the performance, the better. I think once you establish, okay, I'm going to sit here in this very artificial circumstance and I'm going to read a teleprompter, but I'm going to want you to believe I'm saying this to you because I just know it. There's a little hurdle you have to get over and just accept that, okay, this is unnatural, but I'm going to make it as natural as possible. And once you're able to do that, I mean, even little things like you can read the teleprompter after a while without moving your eyes back and forth. Well, sometimes when people are new, you can see their eyes going back and forth, tracking each word. After a while, you sort of get the ability to just take it all in without moving your eyes. So, you develop a comfort with that unnatural activity. You develop a comfort in imagining someone's face instead of the camera, that you're telling a story to your mom or to your best friend. Once you are able to kind of, as you said, bank those skills, then you can just focus on the news. You can focus on the storytelling, but it takes a bit to gain that comfort in the chair. So I think that's something that you can tell when people have it. You can tell when they're still working on it.
And I think that's great because it takes practice. I'm going to ask, because I made him watch one of my all-time favorite movies during the pandemic, Broadcast News.
Oh, classic.
How true to real life is Broadcast News?
Well, I mean, the whole pandemonium with running, Holly Hunter handing off the tape to Joan Cusack, diving under the file cabinet, that doesn't happen anymore because we don't use tapes anymore.
Right.
Everything's digital.
Yeah.
So you finish editing a story, boop, you press a button, and it's on TV in a million homes. So like there was a romance and a sort of a fun aspect to that doesn't exist anymore. The idea that a character like William Hertz could come up and be promoted based on his, as Albert Brooks' character said, or as he told Albert Brooks, if you feel yourself reading, stop and start selling. The idea that you have people like that who are being promoted based on non-journalistic attributes, I'm going to say that can be real, but I think those people eventually are exposed. I mean, if you're sitting in that chair, anything can happen, and you have to have a grounding. You have to understand what you're talking about. You have to understand journalism. You have to understand that just because you're seeing a scene play out, you can't assume that you know what it is. So all these things that take years, or maybe they don't take everybody years. They've taken me years to master. You'd be exposed before too long if you were a William Hurt type. Right. So I get that the network hired him. I don't know that he would have stayed on and become the anchor as he did. Spoiler alert. Sorry.
Right. No, I think that's great. I think knowing your work, I mean, there is a wealth of information that you kind of also have to have back here, like, difficult cities to pronounce, difficult names to pronounce. And I'm thinking of you reading that teleprompter without reading your eyes and going, here comes that name. I've got it.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm not being hit with any hard to pronounce names cold. Most of the time I've had a chance to pre-read everything that I say. Okay. At least pre-read it, if not tinker with it a little bit. But, every now and then stories show up because they're breaking and I'm reading copy cold. So what I'm saying is, please forgive me when you see me butcher what is obviously a mistaken pronunciation. It's going to happen.
I think, we went through all of our.
Well, I just want to say personally.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to thank you because I was diagnosed with MS in 2004, and I've been living, I've been on medication since then, thankfully managing it very well, as long as I make sure, my temperature and eating and sleeping. But I want to thank you for your contributions to MS and people who have struggled with it. I did the MS Walk. We did the MS Walk 1 year a long time ago. And I just want to, for everybody that has MS, thank you so much for your contributions toward finding a cure and helping people that have it.
I thank you, Paul. I appreciate that very much. I've had my own personal connections with MS, friends and family. It tends to hit people as when they're young adults, and it can be managed. And I'm so happy to hear that you're finding it possible to do that with medication and lifestyle adjustments. So we can manage it, but we need to find a cure. And that's, the MS Society in Pittsburgh and nationwide, they are so dedicated to doing that. And I'm involved in really just some fundraising efforts. And that's my small contribution, but it all adds up to hopefully an effort that will end up in ending MS. So it's something that it's only in the history books.
Yeah, ditto. Everything ditto what he said. I think this is probably the most important part of the interview. the hard-hitting journalistic questions that we're going to ask you now.
Okay. Ready.
So, what have you been binge watching during the pandemic?
The chess, the Queen's Gambit,
Good.
right? How good was that?
It was intense. Intense.
Yeah. And I thought the woman who played the young woman on up through adulthood, she was brilliant. Watched I can't think of the name, but Bryan Cranston plays the judge whose son gets in trouble, and then it's based in New Orleans.
Oh, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that yet.
Oh, it's very good.
Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
It's really good. My son introduced our whole family to The Boys.
Love it.
Right?
Love it.
Such an interesting take on superheroes, which my son, he had to sell us on it because we thought, oh, really? And then we started watching it and thought, oh my gosh, this is creative. This is interesting.
Totally.
Those three come to mind, and some British stuff.
Yeah, The Crown.
There's no, I'm the only one in my family who hasn't watched that. But sorry.
What?
I know I've offended you. Sorry.
Oh, it's so good. You got to give it a try.
It is really good.
Broadchurch.
I'm watching it now.
Right? How good is that?
I got to tell you, I normally really don't like anything dealing with like murder, especially children, or like I get just to, and I love Olivia Colman and David Tennant.
Well,
I mean, they're amazing. So I just started it and I'm sucked in.
The whole thing, as you'll see, it's about her relationship with this guy who's brought in to oversee the investigation. To me, it was much more about their relationship than about, the nature of the crime, but just really, really well done.
Really good.
So yeah, that's what I'm binging.
What about?
We just finished WandaVision.
Yeah.
Did you see any of those?
No.
If you like
superheroes,
old TV.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
The whole theme of the series is that they're kind of living each episode through a decade of TV
the
sitcom.
first one is sort of the Dick Van Dyke. It's
Leave It to Beaver.
In the style of Dick Van Dyke. And then there's a Brady Bunch one.
And there's a Bewitched one. There's a Family Ties one. There's a Modern Family one. They kind of live it through TV sitcoms. It's really good. It was really enjoyable.
I'll watch that. Thanks for the tip.
Yeah. What do you need to survive this time? What have you and your family absolutely needed to stay sane during this time?
Takeout. Right? During the pandemic, takeout, we stopped going to restaurants, but takeout on the weekends has become kind of a destination thing. Like we start thinking about it. Hey, what are we going to get for takeout this weekend? Should we do Indian food? Should we do Italian? What are we going to do? So it becomes, something to plan for. And whereas takeout used to be something you'd think about 5 minutes beforehand and place the order, now in these different times, it's become a destination event. So I know that's very simple.
What are some recommendations? Because we're foodies.
Okay, well, you can only do so much pizza, right? I mean, we've done a lot of pizza. I'm in the South Hills. We're blessed with Minio's and Badamos, and I don't want to leave anybody out, so I'll stop there, but many more.
I know that you're a pizza person, because when we did our research, we were digging deep with you. We know you're a pizza person. Are you Aiello's, Minio's? Do you drive to the other side of town for that pie?
Okay, I respect your right to ask that question. Right? But we at KDKA, we have a Friday night pizza club where the night crew will order pizza from someplace. And in the beginning, we were, let's try all these different places. Then we realized, well, wait a minute, we really like these three. Let's just keep ordering those. So we've kind of evolved to where we have our favorites. But for the purposes of this and because of my independence and inability to be subjective,
right,
I feel like I should not endorse any particular
okay
restaurant.
well, because we used to live in that area, so those were our two But now that we live in the South Hills, they
Oh, we're allowed to endorse.
we strongly endorse Fiore's.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
A classic Pittsburgh pizza.
And we what else?
Go ahead. So please tell us what other takeout.
Yeah.
That was
I
the
could
question.
talk about pizza forever. Yeah. Well,
So sushi, Chinese, Indian. You're not going to get me to endorse any particular places. They're all great. No, but you know what? Personally, if you guys wanted to talk, off camera, I'd be happy to give you some of my recommendations. But yeah, we're omnivores, so we've tried all sorts of things, and again, it's given us some anchor at the end of the week to look forward to.
Are your kids in college right now, or are they home?
Well, one's in college and one graduated, and she's home and working on remote now, but we'll be leaving town eventually.
Yeah. How has that been? Having like everyone?
It's been mostly great. The only frustration for me is knowing, like my son is at school, but having my daughter here when she's 22, just turned 23, when she would rather not be here. I mean, she loves us, we love her. We've had a wonderful year, but she's ready to start her life, right? So I did a little piece on this somewhat early in the pandemic when both kids were here. And it's great to have the whole family together unless there's no choice. So I think that's true. When you don't see people, oh, what a treat it is to have you. Oh, you're here permanently? Well, that's a little different because we know as parents that they're ready to move out. So there's been that dynamic as well.
For us, one of the things we've absolutely needed, obviously streaming services, but for me, is taking drives.
Oh yeah.
Like that's one of our things that we can do safely in our little car bubble, but
yeah, if there's a dam or a state park or a fort from the French Indian War,
we've seen it.
That's great. So you've become more educated about your region. I think that's a good thing.
We know who Albert Gallatin is now.
Okay. Secretary of the Treasury, right?
Oh, high five!
Hey, and you know what? That's not from being a newsman. That's from being the host of Hometown High Q for 11 seasons, which has now in the very capable hands of Ray Petlin.
Yes, Hometown High Q. I would not have done well on that unless it was the TV section. Then I would have crushed that.
You'd crush that, yeah.
So I have to ask, because I'm a musician and we haven't talked really about music yet. I saw that I read that somewhere that you're into dad rock. Yeah. But the first band you listed was Steely Dan, which I'm a huge fan of. Any fan of good music, what they did was absolutely phenomenal and incredible. And I did a video.
Totally.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Totally agree with you, but I recently shared a tweet with some friends of mine who are also Steely Dan fans. The tweet said, that feeling when a Steely Dan song comes on and you're like, oh yeah, this is my groove. And then you remember you're in Marshall's. So there is, right? I mean, it is dad music. I get it. I embrace it. I'm not ashamed of it.
He loves it. Tell him.
No, I love it. I love it so much. So I have a YouTube channel, and I did, during the pandemic, because we didn't have gigs, I started really working on my YouTube channel and trying to put videos together. So I've always loved Donald Fagen's album, The Night Fly.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of unofficially a Steely Dan record, really. And so I did a video about the bass playing on that album. I did a lot of research. I played clips from every song and each bass player. And I put it together and I tagged Will Lee, who was he was the bass player on David Letterman for years.
I remember.
And he saw it. He shared it. And it totally went viral. It blew.
Wow.
Like now it's almost at 100,000 views.
Wow.
And just people are still reaching out to me about, I never realized, I mean, you think you do, and then people start reaching out to me about how much they love the album. people who aren't even bass players.
Yeah.
I loved your video. I loved how excited you were about the music.
Yeah.
There's a lot. It's great music, and there's a lot of fans out there. If people aren't aware of it.
I think there, and the fans that are out there are intense.
Oh.
You know, I don't think there's a lot of casual Steely Dan fans. You know, it tends to, right? Like I know, I related to everything you just said. I get what they did, the cleanliness of their recordings, you know, the pristine quality, and, you know, Fagan doing take after take to get it perfect. I get all that, but I don't think, and I think that's typical for a Steely Dan fan. If you're a fan of, say, Aerosmith, you know, nothing against Aerosmith. I like a lot of their music. I don't know that the typical Aerosmith fan is in as deep as the typical Steely Dan fan. Agree or disagree?
Oh, totally agree. Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when this is over, and over, I mean, like, when you can go outside, what do you want to do? What music do you want to see? Where do you want to go? What is calling you?
Yeah, my big thing is, you mentioned I'm a native of Chicago when we started this. My big thing is to get back there. My wife and I were in Chicago right at the beginning of March. So the pandemic it wasn't a pandemic yet, but this coronavirus was out there. I remember before we flew to O'Hare, I went to the store and I bought gloves and sanitizer and masks. And we got to the airport and we didn't see anybody else wearing masks, so we didn't put ours on. I mean, that's how early this was. But we knew it was something we needed to be careful with. So I remember wiping down the tray tables on the plane and this and that. But that's the last time we were on a plane. That's the last time we were in Chicago. So since then, I have a new nephew who I've only seen on Zoom. I have a niece who is, you know, she's a baby, but she's growing up so fast, and I've only seen that on Zoom. So as soon as we can get to Chicago, that's the first place we're going to go. And I think that's kind of the story for so many people who are separated from their families. You ask them, the first thing that they want to do is just hug someone. I think that's kind of where we all are. We just want to reconnect physically instead of through a screen, even though this is delightful. I'm enjoying connecting with you guys via screen, and I will hug you when I see you in person.
There will be a hug. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think they're going to do Off the Record virtually this year.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate, but I think that your energy and you're just so much fun to talk to, and I think one of the reasons why Pittsburghers are so in love with you is because you're 100% authentic. And I think as we show this to our kids, that's something we always tell them: be authentic, be yourself. That's enough. And I think that you've really brightened our day because you're so much fun to talk to. You're so funny, and you're very passionate about your job, but you're very humble about it, which we really, I think that's a really great thing. You can be devoted and passionate, but you can also have an element of, like, I'm still learning, which
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think anyone who pretends that they've learned it all, they've got even more to learn. Yeah, I mean, you're always learning. I see young people come in and I feel like, there's some things I can teach them. And then I realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm learning from them. There is a new way to do this. There's a better way to do this thing that I've been doing the same for 25 years. So I think you have to remain open to that. In my field, in your field, and probably it's true of every field.
Do you have any questions for us? Any more TV theme songs that you want to try to challenge us with?
No, I just want to again extend my publicly just say what a fan I am of yours, Chris. And Paul, I'm going to watch all that Steely Dan stuff you put on YouTube. I'm going to binge that real hard.
It's hundreds of hours worth. So
all I have is time. No, Chris, you're the heart of Off the Record in so many ways. You come on that stage and, you just electrify it. You're such a talent. And, I remember sort of picking you out right when I first started becoming involved, saying, wow, she's something. And that's saying something, because there are so many talented people who do Off the Record every year. But you're terrific, and I think we're so lucky to have you dedicate so many years that you have to the show. So thank you on behalf of all of us who are, kind of just along riding your coattails. Let's put it that way.
That is so sweet. It's really an honor to work on it. It really is. Knowing the good that it does for the community is really, really cool. It's a really cool thing. And I love Pittsburghers. I love that. We're such a great group of people. So you have been an absolute joy. And do you have any questions?
No. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Okay, we end every episode the same way, so don't sign off.
Okay.
I love you.
And we love you!